So let's get into it. Brian Randall Schaffer was born on February 11th, 1979. He was an American medical student at the Ohio State University College of Medicine who has been missing since the early hours of April 1st on 2006. Brian Schaffer grew up in Pickerington, Ohio, a suburb outside of Columbus. He is the elder of Randy and Renee Schaffer's two sons, and he graduated from the local high school in 1997, where he went on to go to Ohio State University for his undergraduate work. 6 years later, he graduated with a degree in microbiology. Following that, Schaffer began studies at the OSU College of Medicine in 2004. During his second year there, in March 2006, his mother unfortunately died of myelodysplasia. Let's see what that is a group of cancers in which blood cells in the bone marrow do not mature, and as a result do not develop into healthy blood cells. Schaffer's friends say that although he appeared to be handling it well, her death was very hard on him. During his time at medical school, Schaffer had become romantically involved with another medical student named Alexis Wagner. She, along with her families and friends, believed that Brian would probably be proposing marriage to her later in 2006. Most likely on a trip to Miami, the couple had planned for spring break at the beginning of April. Tropical locations such as Miami attracted Schaffer. He liked the relaxed lifestyles. He told his friends that despite his decision to pursue a medical career, his real ambition was to start a band playing music in the vein of Jimmy Buffett. On March 31st, classes at OSU ended for spring break the following week. Schaffer and his father, Randy, celebrated the occasion by having a steak dinner earlier that evening. Schaffer's father noted that he seemed exhausted from having studied through the night earlier in the week, cramming for some critical upcoming exams. He did not think Schaffer should go out with a friend, William Clint Florence, later that night as he planned to do, but did not express his reservations to his son. At 9 p.m., Schaffer met Florence at the Ugly Tuna Saloona, a bar in the South Campus Gateway complex on High Street in Columbus. An hour later, Schaffer called Wagner, who had returned to her home in Toledo to visit with her family, before she and Schaffer were due to depart for Miami. Schaffer and Florence went bar hopping, visiting several other drinking establishments, and working their way down to the Arena District. Schaffer and Florence went bar hopping, visiting several other drinking establishments, and working their way down to the Arena District. The Arena District is a mixed-use planned development and neighborhood in Columbus, Ohio. At each stop, the two had one shot each of hard liquor, according to Florence. After midnight, Schaffer and Florence met Meredith Reed, a friend of Florence, in the Short North. Reed gave them a ride back to the Ugly Tuna Saloona, where they had started the night, and joined them there for a last round. Schaffer separated from his companions while police began their search for Schaffer at the Ugly Tuna Saloona, the bar where he had last been seen. Since the area around South Campus Gateway was somewhat blighted with a high crime rate, the Gateway building, which housed the bar and other businesses, had installed security cameras. They reviewed the footage, which showed Schaffer, Florence, and Reed going up an escalator to the bar's main entrance at 1:15 a.m. Schaffer was seen outside the bar around 1:55, talking briefly with two young women and saying goodbye, then moving off camera. The camera did not record him leaving shortly afterward when the Ugly Tuna Saloona closed. This was the last known time that Schaffer was seen. It was possible investigators realized that Schaffer could have changed his clothes in the bar or put on a hat and kept his head down, hiding his face from the camera. He might have also left the building by another route. A service door not generally used by the public was a short distance from where Brian was last seen. This exit led to a first-floor hallway, which featured access at the time to a construction area with its own exterior exit. Some officers believed this would have been difficult to walk through while sober, but much less intoxicated, as Schaffer likely was at the time. However, the cameras in that area might also have missed Schaffer. One panned across the area constantly, and the other was operated manually. Officers next looked to the footage from other bars to see if cameras there could explain how Schaffer had left the Ugly Tuna Saloona. However, footage from cameras at 3 other nearby bars showed no trace of him. The search began to fan out from the Ugly Tuna Saloona, with officers sometimes accompanied by police dogs, looking closely in the street, inspecting dumpsters and other waste containers, and asking residents if they had seen Schaffer. Flyers bearing his picture, showing a tattoo on his upper right arm of a stick figure logo from the cover artwork for the single of Alive by Pearl Jam, one of his favorite bands, and noting a distinctive fleck in one of his irises, were posted widely. Police even persuaded the city of Columbus to let them into the sewer system and search there. No useful information was uncovered. At Schaffer's apartment on King Avenue, 6 blocks from the bar, his car was still parked outside. Inside, nothing appeared amiss. After searching miles away from the Ugly Tuna Saloona in every direction, police began considering other possibilities besides an accident or foul play. Since Schaffer's mother had recently died, it was speculated he had gone away temporarily to grieve in solitude. Yet his disappearance proved permanent. No evident reasons appeared for him voluntarily disappearing. Those who had seen Schaffer that evening, including his father, were asked to take lie detector tests. He and Reed passed theirs, as did all the others, while Florence refused. Sus. The 2 women Brian had last been seen talking to were later identified. They said in 2009 that they had never been asked to take one themselves. Wagner called Schaffer's phone every evening before going to bed for a long time after the disappearance. Usually it went straight to voicemail, but one night in September, it rang 3 times. I kept calling it to hear it purely because it was one of the best sounds I have ever heard, even if no one picked up, she wrote on her MySpace page. Singular, Schaffer's wireless provider said what Wagner heard may have been due to a computer glitch. However, a ping from the phone was detected at a cell tower in Hilliard, 14 miles northwest of Columbus. The police received many tips, none of which resulted in any breakthroughs in the case. At a Pearl Jam concert later that year in Cincinnati, lead singer Eddie Vedder took time between songs to ask for tips on Schaffer's disappearance, but none were useful. Possible sightings in Michigan, Texas, and even Sweden were investigated. Randy Schaffer, who had recently suffered the death of his wife, continued the search for his son on his own. psychic he consulted told him Schaffer's body was in the water near a bridge pier. He and Derek, Brian's younger brother, along with some other citizens who had become interested in the case, bought waders and spent much of their free time along the shores of the Olentangy River, which flows through Columbus adjacent to the OSU campus, searching in vain for the body near bridges. This possibility also led police to briefly consider the heavily disputed smiley face murder theory. Columbus police eventually rejected any connection to the alleged killer in Schaffer's case, following the lead of the most law enforcement agencies, including the FBI, that have looked into it. In September 2008, during a heavy windstorm, Randy Schaffer was clearing debris in the yard of his Baltimore, Ohio home. A branch blew off from a nearby tree and fatally struck him. Neighbors found his body the following day and called the police. After his obituary ran online, a condolence book was posted. One of the signatures in it said, "Did Dad love Brian, U.S. Virgin Islands?" This suggested Brian might have left Columbus for a new life elsewhere. However, upon further investigation, the note was found to have been posted from a computer accessible to the public in Franklin County, and it was determined to be a hoax. It's fucked up. Shortly after Randy Schaffer's death, Neil Rosenberg, attorney for Florence, wrote to Don Corbett, a private investigator who has volunteered his time to help the Schaffer family find Brian, regarding his client's ongoing refusal to take a lie detector test. Rosenberg intimated that he had learned that the Columbus police investigating the case believed Schaffer was alive. If Brian is alive, which is what I'm led to believe after speaking with the detective involved, then it is Brian and not Clint who is causing his family pain and hardship, Rosenberg wrote. Brian should come forward and end this. Rosenberg maintained that his client had nothing to hide, had already shared everything that he knew from the beginning, and Rosenberg did not see the value of Florence doing so again. Rosenberg's assertions, notwithstanding, many of those who were close to Brian Schaffer have criticized Florence for not being forthcoming enough. As soon as the detective started getting involved, that's when he pretty much had no contact with anybody, recalled Derek. I've always thought he definitely knows something, just won't come forward with it. He believes it is still possible that Schaffer is alive and Florence knows where he might have gone. If Brian did take off somewhere, if that is the case, we just always had a strong feeling that Clint would possibly know that, he said. Wagner also thinks Florence is withholding information. She believes that it's likely her former boyfriend is dead and did not run off. I can't imagine he would have just done that, she said. In 2014, Columbus police said they were still receiving at least 2 tips a month on the case via the local Crime Stoppers hotline, though none had proven useful. The evidence in the case filled 4 boxes of files. One of the original investigators, Andre Edwards, told Columbus Monthly that after an extensive review of the camera footage at the Ugly Tuna Saloona from the night Schaffer disappeared, which was intended to rule out the idea that he could have left in disguise, he could say with 100% certainty that Schaffer did not leave via the escalator. Police said that they have 3 theories about the case, but declined to discuss them even generally with the magazine. In 2019, an image of an alleged American homeless man in Tijuana, Mexico, bearing a resemblance to Schaffer, began circulating online. Columbus news station 10 TV forwarded the image to the detective in charge of Schaffer's case in 2020. The detective sent the image to the FBI for facial recognition analysis, which ruled Schaffer out as an identity of the man. In March 2021, the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation released an age-processed photo of what Schaffer might look like at age 42, nearly 15 years after his disappearance. Between the time of Schaffer's disappearance and his own death, Randy joined the cases, and some felt that the investigations into their relatives' disappearances had suffered as a result. By the time Randy died, the bill had become law. And that is all of the information that we have on this case. I wish that, I don't know, I guess it's of the time. It makes sense. I was gonna say, like, I wish that there was more cameras in that area, but I guess it makes sense that there wasn't. He's been missing for 19 years, 2 months, and 15 days now. I want to see, I will have already showed it on here, but I want to see the age processed photo if I can find it. If I found it, you will have seen it already, but yeah, that's all we have for this case. Let me know any of your theories that you may have on this one. Honestly, the friend seems sus. I don't know, I feel like he must have had something to do with it. He definitely knows something at least. From like a outsider's point of view, I would say, like, I really find it wild that he would just like leave, especially when he was so close and in love with this woman that everybody in their lives was like, oh, he's gonna propose soon. Makes me think, like, there's no way that he would just leave. But then again, there are plenty of cases where, like, that does happen, and you really don't think that, like, what's the word I'm looking for? The least assuming people, you know what I mean? Like, it happens. Even if you really think that they would never do something like that, sometimes you never truly know a person, so I guess it is possible that he did do that, but it just seems so weird. And that guy is so weird. Like, I don't know. There's definitely something weird there. I don't know if he's dead, but, like, he definitely knows something. Refusing to take a lie detector test if you're completely innocent is so weird. Like, what do you have to lose? You know what I mean? Like, even if you did fail the lie detector test, it's not admissible in court anyways. Even if you were, like, completely innocent and you failed because you were nervous or something, like, if you're using that as an excuse, I mean, it's not admissible in court anyway, so, like, what's the point of just refusing to take it? Just fucking take it if you're actually innocent, you know? So bizarre. But anyhow, like I said, let me know any thoughts or